Ah. All right. So we're going to be discussing the American dream today. So the American dream. This, yeah, I made this. So can you please respond on your individual Chromebooks? Your already preconceived notion of what. Actually, sorry, we're gonna get to that in a second. What is your dream in life? Anything. To buy a house, to have a family, to win an Oscar. And then let me know how you're gonna, your action plan on how you're gonna get there. You guys are going fast.
Did you make the music?
Yeah.
It's really good. I like it. I was just talking about like this is about.
Thank you. All right. You all good?
No.
Keep going. My dream is to be in the NFL. My dream is to own a tune-up shop. My dream is to be successful in life, be someone who makes a difference in my environment, become a dentist. That's awesome, guys. Military, become a mechanic. My dream is to become a cosmetic plastic surgeon. My dream is to become financially successful. I'm typing while we go. So these are very important to you guys. There's no other reason to live, right? If you don't have your dream. No?
Yeah.
Yeah? We're getting some latency.
They could raise beams of steel to the sky, send a man to the moon, connect the world with a touch
This is
of
Michelle Obama.
Then surely we can keep on sacrificing and building for our own kids and grandkids, right? And if so many brave men and women could wear our country's uniform and sacrifice their lives for our most fundamental rights, then surely we can do our part as citizens of this great democracy to exercise those rights. Surely we can get to the polls on election day and make our voices heard.
America is essentially a dream. It is a dream of a land where men of all races,
If
of
farmers
all
and blacksmiths,
nationalities, and of all creeds
if immigrants
can live together as brothers.
everything they knew for a better life on our shores.
The substance of the dream is expressed in these profound words.
If a generation
So what do you think the American dream is without having studied it, or maybe you have studied it before? Okay, now I'm going to go around again. You're going to answer this one question. What do you think the American dream is? All right?
Okay, I like it.
This time everybody has to participate.
The American dream is to achieve the goals you have in life.
To be successful.
The American dream is that every U.S. citizen should have an equal opportunity to achieve success and prosperity.
The American dream is having freedom and the ability to do whatever you want.
The American dream is taking the opportunity.
The American dream is that every U.S. citizen should have an equal opportunity to achieve success through hard work.
The American dream is to live the life you want for yourself.
The American dream is to accomplish a dream.
In my opinion, the American dream is to be able to live in a good home and not struggle financially due to having a good job that you like.
To me, the American dream is to live a good life and have a good job, live in a good environment, and not struggle financially.
Every U.S. citizen has an equal opportunity to achieve success.
Nice. Did we all answer this one? Okay. So, someone read this out for me, please. What is the American dream? This is from the Declaration of Independence.
We hold
Vice.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, unalienable rights. That along these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Didn't they mean for that to be life, liberty, and land, but they changed it?
No, that's probably not.
This is from a French historian. The American dream is the charm of anticipated success. So what is, somebody describe what they think anticipated success is. Corey.
What you want to do and how you're going to get to it.
Yes, but more specifically, that the anticipation, meaning like, you know, you're being patient for it, you're waiting for it, right, Bias?
I'm thinking about like anticipated, like what's it called, you already have something like planned out what you'd be, and like how you're gonna conquer what you want to be.
Exactly. You see it in the future. You're both right. You're seeing it in the future. You're waiting for it to come to fruition, meaning to become tangible, to become real, not just a dream, reality. I'm going to play a little bit from a speech from our Senator Bernie Sanders. Does anybody who know who Bernie Sanders is?
Yeah.
Well, he
ran for president.
He ran for president, but he was a senator.
For people, in fact, all over this country, via email, from our website, who are wondering whether or not this great country is evolving into an oligarchic society. Historically, as I think most people know, the United States was the envy of the world for so many reasons. But one of the reasons economically is that in our country, there was always the belief that regardless of your income, you had the opportunity to move up the economic ladder. There was the reality, not just the belief, but the reality, that we had a great and expanding middle class. That if your dad and your mom didn't go to college, which was in fact the case in my family, you would have that opportunity to go to college and move up the educational ladder or the business ladder or professional field. And there was this feeling that economically what America was about and what we celebrated was the great middle class. And I think people today, both from an economic perspective and from a political perspective, are beginning in a very serious way to question that reality. And what they are looking at is that today in our country, we have the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth. And, you know, I think a lot of young people say, well, how could that be? In England, you have the Queen of England, you have all the lords and all the royalty and all over Europe. And we don't have that in the United States. Yet, the truth is that over the years, we have moved to a situation where in terms of wealth and income, we are now the most unequal society of any major industrialized nation on earth. And I keep mentioning one statistic because I don't hear too many other people talking about it, but we need to talk about it. And that is in terms of wealth. Wealth is what we own. Wealth is what we have accumulated over a lifetime of work. In terms of wealth, the top 1% in our nation owns 38% of the financial wealth of America. And I would ask those people back home who might be listening, what does the bottom 60% own? Top 1% owns 38% of the wealth. What do you think the bottom 60% own? They own 25%, 20%, 10%. What do they own? Well, the answer is they own all of 2.3%. Oh.
So what Mr. Sanders is saying, and we're gonna go into a visual of this, but the reason why I'm just doing audio is because I want you to listen. Our eyes are so used to seeing and, you know, collecting information that way. Yes.
That was Bernie Sanders?
That was Bernie Sanders. So he could have become our president, but instead of him running for the Democratic Party, it was Hillary Clinton. And now Sanders, he's too old to run, but he had some amazing ideas that maybe he was shooting way high what we should have, but we're not, our economy's not there, our mindsets aren't where he wanted us to be. However, it's not a bad thing to dream so high, to have these stretch goals, right? Because otherwise, how are we gonna achieve anything? DJ Muchos Manos, many hands, like I'm all over the place. My American dream, yes, I'm a teacher. I'm becoming a teacher. That's great. I love what I do. I love working with, you know, students. You know, whether they're like really small, even though that's not my preference, adults that are like older than me, or students like you, coming to a program like this that's a challenge. You're coming into a zone of a challenge to get out of some place of obstacle. And I feel like my whole life's been an obstacle too. I've always been down on myself for just stupid reasons. And that was my challenge to get through it, to allow myself to become what I really wanted to be, to not be ashamed of stating that I want to be what I want to be. And I'm a composer, I'm a musician. There I am, that's right. So, we're gonna continue with the slideshow. We're gonna go into those statistics that Bernie Sanders was saying about financial wealth inequality. And we're gonna break it down visually for you to see, but I'm appreciating this exercise of listening. I think it's very important. Okay, a little bit more. The Founding Fathers put into law the revolutionary idea that each person's desire to pursue happiness was not just self-indulgence. What does self-indulgence mean? To indulge, be... What was that?
Self-pleasure or something?
Yeah, exactly. Something that all of us have the right to be. We have the right to do what we want to do. So it was part of what drives ambition and creativity. By legally protecting these values, the Founding Fathers, through the Declaration of Independence, has a large landmass under one government thanks to the outcome of the Civil War. So we were divided at one point, right? So now that we're not divided, even though we kind of are, we were able to start fresh, right? Have our own ideals. Declaration of Independence is instituted. Second, America has benign neighbors, meaning their geography isn't as good as ours. So we have the right, just through geography, to have a better life. It's not freezing cold, it's not super hot. Or, you know, think of California, for example. Like, this is the ideal place to be. The weather's great. You can go to the desert in an hour. You can go to the mountains in an hour. You know, we have a lot of resources, and that goes to the third one. The third factor is that we have all these resources that other countries don't have. We were set to succeed. However, things are getting to a point where, can we succeed? Does the American dream still exist? Raise your hand if you think it does. I'm gonna raise my hand too. But you're not wrong if you didn't, because a lot of people think it's dead or it never even existed. So, let's move forward. So, we're going to watch this video I keep referencing. I hope you enjoy.
He asked people how they thought the wealth in this country was divided. Then he asked them what they thought was the ideal distribution. And 92%, that's at least 9 out of 10 of them, said it should be more like this. In other words, more equitable than they think it is. Now that fact is telling, admittedly, the notion that most Americans know that the system is already skewed unfairly. But what's most interesting to me is the reality compared to our perception. The ideal is as far removed from our perception of reality as the actual distribution is.
Okay. I want to pause this without this ad popping up. Okay. So what does the middle say?
What Americans think the distribution is.
So that's what we think the distribution is, okay? What's the bottom one say?
Distribution 92% choose as ideal.
As ideal. So ideal meaning
Perfect.
perfect, what we want, our desired choice. Okay, so we think it's this, where the top 20% own, it looks like about half of the total, wealth in the country. But we hoped it was this, where everybody's pretty much equal, even though we're still, not so great in the bottom 20% or the second 20%. The middle class is kind of in the middle. Let's continue, yeah?
Think exists in this country. So ignore the ideal for a moment. Here's what we think it is again. And here is the actual distribution. Shockingly skewed. Not only do the bottom 20% and the next 20%, the bottom 40% of Americans barely have any of the wealth. I mean, it's hard to even see them on the chart. But the top 1% has more of the country's wealth than 9 out of 10 Americans believe the entire top 20% should have. Mind blowing.
So the bottom 40%, like Bernie Sanders was saying, if you heard, only has about 1.8 to maybe 2.8, he was saying, of the entire wealth of the country. That's 40% of the country. That's all of us in this room for sure. Then the 1%, like the Koch brothers, who have 80 billion revenue of all the wealth in the United States. They are almost, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2/5 of the entire wealth of the country. And we're right here. We're not even, we're nothing. It's pretty crazy. So some of you might think, well, yeah, the American dream is definitely dead. What dream? If the dream is to be able to become something, to use your money to get you somewhere, to invest in something, to invest in yourself and your family, to self-indulge, then how am I even supposed to do that?
And realize that the reality in this country is not at all what we think it is.
Any thoughts?
Crazy.
Until I saw this video, I was completely ignorant. I knew it was bad, but having a visual diagram that is so accurate definitely helps you getting some clarity. Okay, so I want you guys to do me a favor. I want you to stand up for a little bit and just kind of shake off any tiredness. You have free reign just to walk around the room for a second. Try to get some cool music going.
Can you create a beat right now?
Yeah, I'll create a beat. Let me see what's that. So stretch.
Show us some of your DJ skills.
Go get some water. Let's see. What? Let's see. Second part of the question: do you think that this dream, as it is classically defined, comes true? So, is the American dream real or not? Break it down to that. And then why or why not? Keep it one sentence, keep it short.